Hey guys, welcome to week 4 of my Writer Wednesdays live event thingies. This week I'm a little more prepared than last week and I'm not in any pain, no pain meds happening, so we're doing good. I don't know if I actually mentioned it last week. I was kind of in a daze, but I ended up having some jaw issues. My jaw slipped out of place and I ended up having some heavy duty pain meds to try to get it to go back down to a normal level of not pain. Anyway, so this week, since I am more prepared, I have notes that I'm going to be going over and a couple of tips that I wanted to give to people who are either writing or pretty much anything in general, because I think everybody has a tendency to take critiques or criticisms of their work, whether it be creative or otherwise, a little too harshly. And sometimes we forget, hi Janine, I see you on there, forget that everybody does have their own perception, and sometimes they're going to disagree and they're not always going to like what it is you're doing, whether that be writing a novel, whether it be a poem, whether it be a painting, whether it be a website. There's always going to be someone with a different perception or expectation. So because of that, one of the things that I've learned through the process of writing the Pendamis Chronicles is that accepting critiques and criticism is actually a really, really good thing. And I've mentioned it a couple of times before, but one of the reasons I wanted to go over it again and kind of give some tips is because I think it's really important. Hey Kate, I see you this time. I didn't have to mention it in the comments. Woo! But yeah, so critiques and criticism, they will enhance any kind of work that you're doing, whether it's writing a novel or doing that painting or whatever it might be. It doesn't mean you have to accept everything that a critiquer is sending your way, but it does mean maybe taking a moment, which brings me to tip number 1. When you get criticism or a critique of your work, and perhaps it's not the jubilation that you're expecting, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, they're not jumping for joy, they're just kind of either giving you a it was all right, or here's my long list of things that I want you to take care of because this is horrifying. The first thing to do, rather than jumping on it and like flying off the handle or some other cliche, you need to just stop and take a beat. Let it stew and let it sit with you for a little bit. Sometimes it's best not to even mention it to anyone right away, because obviously if you're going to go to friends or family, they're going to be on your side anyway, so they're just going to jump on your bandwagon, which is great. But it's better if you can just relax and kind of sit with, I guess, the energy of it for a little bit. Ask yourself the questions. Does what they're saying make sense? Are these things that should be taken care of? And if they are, write them down and put them aside. Will their critique help you? Is there anything that they're saying that will actually help make, for instance, in the aspect of writing, will it help make your writing experience, the reader's experience, better? And I want to give an example here, because the very first time I was writing Pendamis, I had my beta reader extraordinaire, Sherry. She was probably my biggest cheerleader, probably still is, reading the novel. And for her, there were a lot of things where we were going back and forth, and it was almost in a way a joint effort, because she was involved in a lot of the creative brainstorming for me, because I enjoyed our going back and forth so much. And so what ended up happening was there was, I want to say, one chapter right away in the beginning where it didn't resonate with her. It wasn't working for her at all. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. This is just horrifying. What am I going to do to overcome this? And after I walked away from it for a bit and I was thinking about her suggestion, she didn't have anything specific. It was more just a vague, this doesn't feel right to me. It feels like there should be something else. So in just letting it stew, kind of thinking about it a little bit more, I was able to come up with a lot of different ideas, and it spurred on a whole brainstorming session, which ended up developing into a much better chapter that was much more potent than it would have been had she not brought up those subjects. So, and since then, I think that aha moment for me in knowing that, you know what, getting that criticism, even if it makes me go, oh crap, it's not what you wanted, helped me to write a better version of it, and it ultimately became a much better story. And then the last thing that kind of goes with the letting it stew, thing to think about is to, will the effort you put into it, is it worth the change? So, because not all of the changes are going to be worth it. Sometimes people give suggestions and they don't think about either the amount of work involved, or they don't, maybe they've never written before, maybe they've never done a website before, so they don't understand like the different aspects of things that are being touched on. But sometimes the changes are not worth it. And sometimes you know about it. For instance, if there's something small in a novel that in the background you kind of know is going on. For instance, Runa was very, very naive in book 1, and I wanted her that way. And I got a lot of flack from a couple of the book bloggers who just didn't resonate with her. She was too naive, she was too duh, and it's like, and that was kind of their take on it, and that's fine. For me, I was going, that's okay, I need her to evolve. I need her to change from that completely naive, I don't get the world kind of situation up to what she's going to be in Revolutions. And I needed that change to be dramatic enough that when you went back to the first book, you're like, wow, she really did kind of transform there. And so in the aspect of that, in the aspect of saying, should she change? Should I change her in the way that she's written to accommodate the people who are like, I really don't like her, I think she's too naive? Well, no, obviously it didn't make sense, that change, because I knew where she was going and why I did it. There's a couple of other similarities like that I really think are applicable as well. I mean, there are different characters or different settings. I have a friend who is also an author, and she gave an idea, or something that I've been stewing on for book 2, actually, Polarities, where I talk almost in cliche sometimes. And for me, it was deliberate because, first of all, it's a young adult novel, and not to say that young adults are in any way, shape, or form not with it, but I think sometimes they don't have the world experience to know that some of the cliches are cliches. They think it's just fact. It's just the way it is. This is life. And so cliches, and I might even do a post on cliches at some point, because she's said, cliche in some instances as words or things that I'll say, which is fine. And those are ones that I will absolutely tweak, because being on a different planet, I want to make sure that we're using different words and not like normal Earth cliches, if that makes sense. But when it comes to cliches of overarching similarities, I think it's going to be hard for any author to get away from a cliche that is, a coming of age story, where someone is going from that naive individual to someone who has more potency later on. So those are things where I've had to kind of sit and parse apart what it is she's saying, what do I agree with, what do I not agree with, and then go from there. So big tip, so that was all under tip 1. Big tip number 2, it's important to remember your critiquer's reasons. Usually there's 3, right? Okay, the first one is, if you're sending your manuscript off to a friend, family member, they really do mean well. They want you to succeed, and they want the best for you. So if they see something that's kind of glaring to them, and in their mind or in their life or their perception, it's not jiving with them, they do mean well. They want to pass on this information to make sure that you're not missing something. So don't take it as like a complete jab in your back or something like that. It's really coming from a place of good. The second place where most of the people will come from is they expected more. Honestly, it's not a bad thing either. They know from you what you're capable of doing. And if they got something where they read it and it just didn't give all that they were looking for, they're going to let you know, kind of like Sherry, that example that I gave, where there's something missing, but she expected more. And sometimes that perception, hearing a different perception, hearing that different perspective helps you as an author, as a creator, to find a better way, to come up with that better reason or that better dialogue, that better scene, right? Okay, and then the third reason, really, unfortunately, is ego involved. So perhaps there's jealousy involved. Perhaps there is, you're writing a memoir, right? And you paint a particular friend or family member in a poor light, even though perhaps it's actually the way that they really are. They don't like it, so they're going to bounce back at you, right? So there's going to be a lot of varying reasons. Just an example, of why someone might actually come back with some negative criticisms. Things to think about, right? Okay, so tip number 3, break it down. Once you've had time to sit and stew, once you've kind of looked at what they're doing, why they said it, is there anything that you agree with? Really think about the areas that resonate with you on what you want to change. So, for instance, the cliches, right? I know that I do want to make sure that any cliches that are happening within sentences, true cliches, are changed. And even if it is a similar version so that people make the connection of the cliche on Earth to there, that's all right. We just don't want to use an actual cliche from Earth on our time, right? I'm getting sick of right. Sorry about that. And then one of the most important things I have to say about this, though, in getting to work and making those changes, is not to get hung up on them. Not to let your changes or the critiques or the things that they're trying to tell you to change get in the way of actually finishing. One of the biggest problems that I think any creator probably on this planet has is trying to appease everybody. It's not going to happen. And your art will take on its own life once it's out in the world. And it's going to say things, it's going to change things, it's going to be things. It's not always going to be perfect. And you have to let that go and realize that done is way better than perfect. You're never going to reach perfect. You're never going to appease everybody with your writing, with your art, with your design, with anything that you do. And the best thing that you can do is be true to yourself, be true to your art, and make sure that everything that you're doing is done to the best of your ability, and then move on to the next phase. So with regards to the last 2 books I'm working on for Pendamis, I'm very proud of them. I think that I've come a long way as an author, and I've changed a lot along the way. But I'm also ready to move on, and I'm ready to do some really cool things. I've got great ideas brewing, and I want to get to them. But I know I have to finish this first. I can't just bounce off and be gone, because otherwise all this hard work and all the effort is worth nothing, right? Oh, there it is again. And so you have to allow yourself to be okay with not being perfect and not appeasing everyone, and just still go for it anyway so that you can move on and continue to evolve as an artist. So that's pretty much my Facebook Live event for week 4. Hopefully it was more cohesive probably than any of the other ones that I've done so far, but that's all right. And hopefully next week we'll continue on with some more tips and be able to be a little bit more coherent as well. Join me again. Next week I will be on Twitter, I think. I'm going to try doing Twitter instead of doing Facebook Live. I want to hit a broader range of people. So I'm going to be bouncing, just as a trial, between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, doing lives on Wednesdays. So check out my Facebook page, events page. It'll let you know where I'm going to be at on whatever particular week. And then hopefully I'll come up with a better schedule so that you know what the topic will be each week. And if you've got any questions on the video, any questions on what I'm talking about, feel free to leave a comment in this section below down there. And yeah, so that's the gist of my week 4, Writer Wednesday. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye!